Hey everybody, this is Chad Pierce at Bluleadz. Today we're going to talk about something really cool. We're going to teach you really quickly how to create a neat image gallery using HubDB. Now you can see in front of me I have a new HubDB database created. I'm not going to go in how to create one of those. HubSpot's got some really cool tutorials on that. But once we have our HubDB set up, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need this ID here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Then we're going to go into our design manager. This is where we're going to have all the fun. Now, I'm using the HubSpot's new design manager. It's in beta currently. A few portals I've seen are starting to get the new design manager, but I'll kind of give you an idea how it works as we're doing this. So we're going to create a new file, and I can come right over here to custom modules, right click here and create a new file. And we're going to create today a module. So we're going to go there. We're going to be able to use this module in pages only, and we're going to call it, Amazing Image Gallery. Okay. Once we have that up and running, we're going to need, real quick, I'm just going to paste in my HubDB ID there, and we're just going to put it in there to save it. That way I know what it is. So the first thing is we're going to give ourselves a wrapper class for our gallery. To do that, I'm just going to create a quick div, and we're going to call that div gallery. This is where all of our images are going to live. Okay. Now we're going to create a link, and this is going to be the link to the large image in our gallery. The thumbnail is going to be embedded directly in the page. Don't forget your alt tags, folks. So now we have, this is essentially the basis of the gallery. It's sans styles in JavaScript, but this is all the actual HTML we're going to need. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable in Hubble. We're going to set that as gallery. And we're going to reference a HubDB table. And that HubDB table is our ID, which is 677222. Okay. Now this is just a variable. So now we have to go and actually use this. Now you remember the table was a list. So because it's a list, we're going to loop through that list. So we're going to create a for loop. And we're going to say for image in gallery, and then we're going to put an in for. So now we need a couple things. We need the image source and we need the image description. Okay, so we're going to go in to our HubDB table, and we're going to grab a couple things. Right here, if we click edit on that column, we'll grab the column name for that, and that's going to be our image source. Okay, and we'll come back over here and we'll call our variable, and we'll say image.url. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and give this a title, and that is going to be using this description. We'll do the same thing. We'll go in here and grab that image description, call our variable just like that, and that is gonna basically give us the link to the image URL and the image title. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use the exact same references for the actual image, and for the alt text I'm going to use the description as well. Okay. And that right there, if we look at it, should, in our preview, should get us a list of images. Oh, I see the issue here. Let's go ahead and preview that. And here are all of our images. Now they're pretty big, and we don't want that. Our thumbnails, we want them to be a manageable size. So right in here in our thumbnail area, we're going to call on a function that HubSpot recently created, and it's called resize image URL, and it takes a couple things. The first is the URL, and in our case that is going to be this little piece of code here, and then we're going to give it the first is a width, and we want our images to be about 550 pixels wide. That enables us to have enough image to cover some tablet sizes when it starts to break, and also on a nice big desktop. And then we're going to go ahead and close that Hubble tag out, and we're going to preview this again. So now we should have smaller images. All right. So now that we have images, as you can see, if I click this image, it opens up a larger image. Okay, so we have the functionality there. We want to make it look good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that, and I'm going to start working over here. The first thing we're going to need is love surrounding the ability to make this multiple columns. There's a couple ways to do this, but the one way that I like to do this is just to use a nice little feature called columns, and we're going to give it 3 columns. And if I come over here to my design previewer, you can see now I have 3 columns, which is kind of nice. We're going to give padding all the way around. Ooh, look at that, beautiful. And we're going to give it a max width of 100%. Okay, or excuse me, just a width of 100%. Okay. Now we're going to give a class to our image, and we're going to call that image gallery image. Okay, actually we're going to add it to the link here, and I'm going to take that down here, and I'm going to make that first. We're going to make a display block, and we're going to give it a max width of 100%. Now that seemingly is going to make the link 100% of the width of my full container, but because we're using the columns up here in gallery, it's only going to take up 100% of the width of the actual column that it's in. Okay, and then we're going to give it a little space below the image, and we're going to just give it a space of about 1 and that should get us on this little space below. All right, perfect. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the actual image itself, and that image is going to be called gallery image. Just do it this way, and we're going to give this a max width of 100%. The reason being is because we want to make sure that it's not going to go past our container, the column. We want to make sure that image itself is display block, and that is just to make sure there's no like ghost margin or padding underneath. Okay, so it looks pretty good, right? You got a 3-column layout. It's kind of in the old Pinterest style where it's masonry. It's a kind of a fake masonry. Now we want this thing to work. Okay, I want to say if we click on our gallery image, I want to do something. Okay, so there's a couple things we need to do when we click. The first thing is we need to prevent the default action, which is to open the new tab or new window and view the image. So we're going to prevent defaults. Okay, and then we need to grab the URL of that link. Okay, and we're going to do that by just saying, this and we're going to grab the attribute of href, and then we're also going to grab the title so that we can use it as well. Okay, so now we can actually do something with this. Okay, and on click, what we're going to do is we're going to append a div to the body, and that div is going to be the overlay and include the image and the title and the close button and all that stuff. So every time we click on there, we're going to append the div. Now we can't leave it there. We're going to remove it in the future, but for now, this will help us. Okay. So the first thing we have is our div with a class of gallery overlay. Okay. That is the pop-up. Okay. We've got a close button right here with a class of close. We've got our gallery image wrapper. So this is going to be how we center the image on the page when it pops up, the larger image. We've got the actual image, and you can see here we're using our URL variable from our JavaScript and our title variable right here. So the image has the URL. The title is used for both the alt text of the popover image and a nice little description underneath it, and then we close the divs out. Okay, so this right here, if I was to preview this, okay, if I clicked on this right now, we would get our image underneath, and below that is our nice little title, but it doesn't look like a popover yet, right? And here's our close button. Okay, and then if I click close, it doesn't really do anything yet. So we need to figure that out. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my CSS, and my CSS I'm going to pinpoint gallery overlay, which is, if you remember right, that's our actual overlay, and I'm going to first of all give that a position fixed. That way it's always in our viewport. Okay, we're going to give it always send it to the top. It's always over everything. We're going to give it a width of 100%. That way it always takes up the viewport, and a height of 100%. The background is kind of the key for this particular item. That is black, but we want it to be a little transparent. So I'm going to go with like 0.9. Okay. And then we're going to give this a Z index of like 100,000, something really, really big. Okay. The reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that when this thing pops up, we want it to be on top of absolutely everything. Okay. Now the one thing, now we got to now the next thing I want to pinpoint is we want to make sure our close button is always in the top right hand corner. Okay, and we gave that a class of close position absolute, and we're gonna go put it in the top right, and the top we're gonna make it about 2 ems away, and the right about 2 ems away, and that will just kind of nest it up in the corner up there. I want to make sure that the background of the button lets our image, or lets our background shine through, so we're going to call the background transparent. Okay, and we're going to give it a color of just flat white, and then we want the font to be kind of big. I'm going to go with like 1.5 ems. That would give us a nice size font for that close button. And then now I'm going to work on the actual gallery image wrapper, because right now, if I was going to preview this, if I click my lion, okay, now we get the close button. It's in the top right hand corner, and if I can't really scroll anywhere because our image is now taking up the whole container because it's in a fixed position. Now I need to actually work on my gallery image wrapper. The image wrapper is what's going to center it and make it the fixed size that we want. All right, so gallery absolutely positioned, and we want it to be 50% from the top and 50% from the left. but because the way absolute position works, it's going to put the top left corner in that position. We're going to bring it back. So we're going to transform. We're going to translate that div -50%, and this will be the width of the actual image, 50%. So it'll always center it. Okay. We're going to give it a width of 100%. So when you have a smaller device like a mobile phone or a tablet, it'll take up 100% of width of the screen. But the max width on that image we want is going to be 1200 pixels. Okay. Now we should have a nice little preview. Oh, what the heck's going on? So we have one little issue, and that issue is that our image still doesn't want to play nice because the image itself is bigger than 1200 pixels. So we can make sure that the image itself has a max width of 1200 pixels, right? And that would work, but our image is still way bigger than than we actually need it to be. So what I'm going to do, what I propose, is actually going back to our Hubble code, and we're going to force that image to be 1200 pixels wide. And I'm going to do that by doing the exact same thing we did to our thumbnails and ensure that that image is only ever 1200 pixels wide, regardless. Okay, so now we refresh the page, we click, and voila, it's a nice small, nice medium-sized image. Now we have a little bit of an issue. If I click the close button, it doesn't really do anything. Okay, we don't want that. We want to make sure that that the close button actually does something. So what we're going to do is we're going to real quick create a function, and we're going to call that function close pop-up. Okay, and then we're going to say close the gallery overlay. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hide it. Now that doesn't remove it from the DOM. So if we, but if we run a function in the callback of hide, we can then remove this gallery wrapper from the DOM itself. Okay. Now when I click my close button, I can just call close pop-up. All right. So now when I click that close button, it closes the image. And that, my friends, is how you create a quick, took me about 10-15 minutes tops to do that, and that's how you create a quick image gallery using HubDB. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk soon.